In years past, the 20-second clock on the outfield walls at SEC Baseball Stadium was only implemented with no one on base. And it was extremely rare for an umpire to give a warning or call a ball penalty when the pitcher or the hitter delayed action. Mike Bianco, the head coach at Ole Miss, has said that he thinks it sped the game up a little, but only from the standpoint of the fact that people were aware of the clock on the outfield wall, not so much that the 20-second rule was being enforced. But now, the 20-second clock is being put in play on every single pitch, regardless of whether a runner is on base or not. There will be no warnings for violating the 20-second clock. If you don't deliver a pitch by the time the clock strikes 0, it is a ball. And a ball will be added to the count every time the clock expires before the pitcher begins his delivery. I said deliver a pitch. It's start the delivery. Pitchers are allowed to step off the rubber one time during an at-bat to restart the clock. A subsequent step off without a pickoff attempt will not stop the clock. Now, there is no limit on the number of times you can actually throw to a base, which is different from the Major League Baseball rule. Right? In Major League Baseball this year, they're going pitch clock, and you're only allowed to throw to a base one time during an at-bat, which feels like a terrible idea. I mean, it's clear that Major League Baseball is trying to change at least the perception of the game being nothing but strikeouts and home runs. I mean, they're trying to give base runners an advantage to kind of get some guys moving and get a little bit more action.
Nobody steals bases anymore anyway. So,
well, don't you think that's going to change?
Might, but I mean, teams aren't built for that anymore. You don't have guys like Ricky Henderson and Vince Coleman and Harold Reynolds,
Billy Hamilton
anymore. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but my guess is you've got guys that can run, they just don't. I mean, it feels like Mike Trout could go steal 30 bases if he wanted to in a season.
Possibly.
Yeah, Xander Bogaerts. I mean, everybody's got a couple of guys that can really scoot on the base paths. And if you get a throw over to first to try and keep a guy close, and now the pitcher cannot throw over to first again, you're simply waiting for the first movement of his delivery, and you are gone.
Hmm.
And you're putting a premium on catchers, and I guess you're putting some strategy on calling pitches and pitch outs. But how many of those do you want to waste to try and keep a runner close or keep a runner from getting into scoring position? All right, so a 20-second pitch clock in college baseball. There is a between batters clock of 30 seconds. So let's say routine ground ball to short, fielded by the shortstop, throw to first, umpire says out, 30 seconds starts. And so as I understand it, Borky, in that scenario, the 30-second clock will preclude the 20-second clock. Right? So play ends, out, 30-second clock starts. Next pitch must be delivered before that clock gets all the way to 0.
Yes.
So the first baseman, when he catches that ball, he's got to get it back to the pitcher, and the pitcher's got to go on the mound if the pitcher decides to and toe the rubber and get ready to throw the next pitch. But that also means we're not going to sit there and watch a batter walking from the on-deck circle to the batter's box at a leisurely, at best, pace, only to stick his back right foot in, kind of mess around with the dirt a little bit, waggle his bat a little bit, shake his rump a little bit, adjust his batting gloves, adjust his helmet, adjust his batting gloves again, stick his hand up to the umpire, climb into the box, start to dig in, take a couple of rocks, and then act like he's ready to hit. I mean, it took me 30 seconds to describe that.
Yeah. Drawing
Never
stuff
mind how
in the
long
dirt.
it takes to actually do that.
Yeah, and I love this. And there's data to back this up that it does speed up games, of course. I mean, of course it does. In the minor leagues, they've done this and enforced it hard, and they've shaved off a half an hour from games on average. And that kind of stuff, I mean, I'm not a purist. I know there are baseball people that love every single thing about baseball, and they love it, and they want nothing to be touched. But the scenario you just described drives me nuts.
And it doesn't just happen before the first pitch of an at-bat. It happens between like, that's the hitter's routine.
Yeah.
They have these sports psychologists that teach routine. You do the exact same thing over and over and over and over. And so you might watch a guy, and, he takes, even if you're not supposed to get out of the box, he leaves his right foot, his back foot in the box, right-handed hitter, steps out with his big open left foot, kind of a couple of little waggles, readjusts batting gloves, ruffles his helmet around, kind of climbs back in, starts to get ready. I mean, that happens over, and there's no pace to the game.
None. I mean, especially Texas A&M last year. The way that their approach at the plate was so slow on purpose. I mean, and you know what this is going to really help? Midweek games. This is going to really help midweek games when you're playing teams that have guys that really struggle to throw pitches, or throw strikes, I should say. And you've got all the stuff that you described, the batting gloves and the adjusting the helmet and drawing stuff in the dirt and taking forever. And then the guy throws a ball, and then you do it again, he throws another ball. And it just, those 4-hour 11-1 midweek games against directional U are going to feel faster because they are faster. That is where, like, weekend games, big weekend games still had a bad pace to them, but at least, like, it felt faster because it was two good teams and stuff like that. Like, it felt like it was moving pretty good, except for when you were playing Texas A&M. Those midweek games were just a slog. Always just slow and forever. This should really help the pace of those.
Question is, you get several questions on the C Spire text line. Josh and Clinton, when does the clock reset? As soon as the pitcher gets the ball back? Yes. And look, so the pitcher delivers a pitch, let's just say it's called a ball, kind of falls off the side of the mound, walks to the back of the mound. When he steps into the dirt area of the mound, that's when it starts. As long as he's not intentionally delaying stepping into the dirt area. And look, there's going to be some common sense here as well. If there's, like, maintenance that needs to happen where a pitcher needs to, like, rake dirt into the area where his foot lands, the clock's not going to be running then. They're going to use common sense in starting the clock, but they're trying to get consistency in the way that they do that. Let's see here. We had a couple of people said, so no throwing the ball around the infield to celebrate an out anymore. Oh, no, I think you can still do that. It's just going to be crisp. It doesn't take long.
No, just a few seconds, man. And the pitcher's kind of walking around the mound anyway. It gives him a chance to kind of reset himself as well before he climbs back onto the mound. That's no problem. That'll still happen.
That's a 5 to 7 second thing. That's not slowing down the game at all. All right, so you've got your 20-second clock, your 30-second clock after an out or after a ball is put into play. You get a double into the right center field gap. Guy stops on, ball comes back in, time's called, ball goes to the pitcher. That's the end of the play. 30-second clock starts. He climbs back on the mound. He delivers ball one. Now you got a 20-second clock. Now he delivers strike one. You got a 1-1 count, 20-second clock, on and on and on along those lines. Here's one I like also. How many times do we see a pitcher look in, take all his time, get a sign, step off? Look in, get a sign, pick to first. Pick to first again. Now we get the slow stroll from the manager to the dugout, out to the mound, conversation, just waiting on the umpire to come out and break it up, only to ultimately make a pitching change. 2-minute process, 2.5-minute process, so that his guy in the bullpen can get an extra 6 pitches in to get loose before he comes in to get his 7 pitches before the at-bat begins with the new pitcher in the game. There's now a 30-second mound visit clock. We'll tell you what that means. And also the pitch, 20-second clock, 30-second clock, 30-second mound visit clock. That's going to drastically change the way. Well, it's going to change some strategy. It's going to change how you go about getting guys loose in the bullpen, knowing that you got to get them loose. Now, maybe coaches are going to find a way to stall and figure out a way around it maybe. They're trying to eliminate this. And also, you can't lollygag your way out to the mound and then talk to your pitcher for 30 or 45 seconds and wait on the umpire to lollygag his way out to the mound to break it up. It's going to be 30 seconds. And guess what happens at the end of 30 seconds? You don't have a siren. You don't have the umpire doing his thing. At the end of the 30 seconds, the 30-second pitch clock starts. So there's your built-in penalty. Coach wants to be long-winded and buy an extra amount of time for his guy to get loose in the bullpen. So be it. Pitch clock has started. So we'll see how that works. And there's a 2.5-minute clock for pitching changes. From when you got a new pitcher coming into a game, either mid-inning or to start a new inning. When the pitcher crosses the warning track, so assuming you got a bullpen in the outfield or leaves the bullpen area, in the case of LSU and a couple of others where they've still got mounds in the field of play, that's brilliant in 2023. Then a 2.5-minute clock starts. And upon expiration of that, you got 7 pitches to get warmed up, but guys will come in and they'll take a moment of meditation or say a prayer and scratch something on the back of the mound and grab the rosin bag and spit a couple of times and dig out a spot in front of the rubber, and then they'll take their warm-up pitches and all of that. I don't think that 2.5 minutes is going to be hard to I don't think that's going to affect anything. I don't really think that's going to affect anything. And at the end of the 2.5 minutes, the 20-second pitch clock starts.
Yeah.
Deliver a pitch. Just going to keep it moving.
Yes. Baseball is famously a sport without action. It's better to give the appearance that there is action.
Hunter in Columbus says the length of a baseball game has never bothered me. I mean, it's baseball. I enjoy being at the Dude for a while. I really don't care if the game takes a while because that means more time to hang out with friends. I just responded, I think it's more about the TV product.
Yes. Yes.
And here's, honestly, I think this is a bigger part of it. Not just the TV product, but the people in charge of college baseball are not unaware of the fact that college softball rates higher than college baseball.
Exclusively. Mm-hmm. I mean, it always draws better than college baseball.
It's a fast-paced game that's shorter, that fits in basically a 2-hour window on television. And the ratings are higher for it, and there's a ton of growth for it. And I think college baseball can look at this and be like, hold on a second. We've got a really good product, and our game is growing. College baseball is growing in popularity. There's no question about it.
Yeah, speaking of, I saw Oklahoma's got a big, they're going to do a stadium renovation here shortly. Just secured some major donation to get that started. Saw that on Twitter today.
By the way, guys, Mississippi's not the only state where the left hand watches what the right hand is doing. 1, Oklahoma just played for a national championship. 2, Oklahoma State is a year removed from opening a brand spanking new, spectacular $65 million ballpark. It was only a matter of time.
Yeah.
It was only a matter of time. And look, Texas A&M's about to renovate Bluebell Park. You can go ahead and count on the fact that Dish Falk's going to get renovated soon. It's just how it works, right? It works that way everywhere. 10-run rule for conference games, 10-run rule for non-conference games if both coaches agree to it. Heard an interview, I think it was one that Chase Parham did with Carl Lafferty, and he said he really liked the 10-run rule. Because I think a lot of us look at it and we're like, man, it's baseball. Factors into strategy. You know, if you're a baseball purist, you don't love that. He's like, I like it. He's like, man, you're down 10 in the 6th inning. Everybody's ready to go home. And it's not just the team that's getting boat raced who wants to preserve pitching. It's the team that's ahead that wants to preserve pitching for the next day as well.
Well, let's start calling football games in the third quarter then.
I tend to fall on the same line as Hunter and Columbus. I like baseball, and it just doesn't. I'm just never a guy that's at the ballpark looking at my watch going, gosh, I've been here a long time. You know, I've never once said I spent too much time at the ballpark. Now, yeah, I'll take that back. That game in I think it was 19 that went with Alabama that went to 3 a.m. I might have said I spent too much time. That SEC tournament game we had against LSU, I spent too much time at the ballpark for that. But on a normal day, I don't ever notice these kind of things. Plus, my first thought is, we're going to give these umpires who already can't call balls and strikes correctly more to do. Great. I'm sure it won't backfire at all.
I do think that's something important to watch. You're putting more responsibility on the umpires. And in a ballpark where you've got the pitch clock on the outfield wall, it's going to be the responsibility of the home plate umpire. In a lot of cases, a home plate umpire who already has trouble handling the strike zone, and now you're going to ask him to keep up with something else.
Seems easy, though. I mean, if the clock is
right
off the pitcher, I mean, you can see it counting down. If the guy starts his windup and the clock's not at 0, you can immediately focus. It should be an easy eye transition.
I agree. I don't think you're asking too much of the umpires in this, but you are asking them to think about and process one more thing during the course of a game. And yes, college baseball strike zones are not great, and not great is putting it mildly. If you put the Fox box or the ESPN K zone, if you overlaid that on college baseball broadcast, ooh boy. The Major League umpires are pretty good. I mean, we may think they're bad, but in terms of balls and strikes, overall, they're pretty good. It would be a different story if college baseball umpires were dealing with K-Zone.